Welcome to Toastmasters Beta Bay, where we feature speakers from San Francisco to Monterey. My name is Birgit Starmanns, and I will be your host for this episode. When you think about it, maintaining and improving your public speaking skills is a lot like sports. You have to train. When it comes to running, nobody would ever expect a marathon runner to stop training for 6 months and then all of a sudden still be at peak performance. The same is true of public speaking. If you only do 2 presentations a year, do you really expect to be at the top of your game? Well, that's the beauty of Toastmasters. Through the weekly meetings of Toastmasters clubs, speakers can get experience and practice. They can do prepared speeches, impromptu speeches, and get evaluations. That way, they're always in training, and that way, they're maintaining and improving their skills so they can get better every time that they have to perform in public. Today, we're going to see a slice of what one of those Toastmasters meetings looks like. We're going to see 2 speakers, 2 prepared speeches, and each speaker will be followed by an evaluation, which will tell the speaker what they did well and also some areas where they can improve. Our first speaker is Mark Stiving. His speech title is, "You Can't Judge a Book by Its Cover." You can't judge a book by its cover? Welcome, Mark Stiving.
You can't judge a book by its cover. This is an old saying that simply means, don't be quick to judge. Look a little bit deeper before forming that opinion. Now, I know you can't judge a book by a cover because, you see, Woody Hayes was my childhood hero. Now, I was born in Columbus, Ohio, home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, where Woody was the head football coach from 1951 to 1978. And in those 28 years, he won 13 Big Ten championships and 3 national championships. Woody was a hero to everyone in Columbus, but especially to little boys like me. Now, Woody wasn't always perfect. There was this one time when he disagreed with the ref's call and he ran out on the field and was arguing with the ref and of course he didn't get his way. So he stormed off the field, picked up the yard marker and just broke it over his knee. Woody got ejected from that game. And there were a few other incidents like that. But the most egregious incident happened in 1978. In 1978, I was a freshman at The Ohio State University. Now, my whole life, I'd been an Ohio State Buckeye football fan. Woody Hayes was my hero. I remember that season, I went to see a pep rally. Woody Hayes was up there introducing the team. He's bigger than life. Oh. That season, we lost a couple games, but we still got invited to play in the Gator Bowl. At the Gator Bowl, we're playing the Clemson Tigers. Now, we're the underdogs. That means we're not supposed to win the game. But I'm sitting at home, I'm watching the game on TV. 2 minutes left to go. We're only down by 2 points, and we have the ball. If we score now, we're going to win this game. Our freshman quarterback, he takes the snap, he falls back, looks over the line, throws it. Was intercepted by Charlie Bauman of the Clemson Tigers. Charlie got knocked out of bounds and fell down at Woody's feet. When Charlie got up, some people say he taunted Woody with the ball, but it doesn't matter because nothing justifies what happens next. Woody Hayes punched Charlie Bauman through the face mask. The university asked Woody to resign, and Woody refused, so they fired him. That day, Woody lost his job, and I lost a hero. About 9 years later, Woody died. About 10 years after that, I was invited back to the university to teach. And when I got there, I bought this book called Woody's Boys. This was a book written by the players about the coach. Now, of course, the book tells us that Woody was passionate for football. But what it also tells us is he was passionate for people. there's one lesson that he would teach his kids, every student that went through: you can never pay back, but you can always pay forward. Now, Rex Kern tells this story. Rex Kern. Rex is the quarterback of the 1968 national championship team. Rex was as big a hero in Columbus as Woody was at the time. And Rex tells this story where one day after practice, Woody comes up to him and says, "Do you have a test tomorrow?" Rex replied, "No." He said, "Come on, you're going with me." And they drove to Children's Hospital in the burn unit and went from room to room visiting the kids, telling stories, signing autographs. Now just imagine being a little boy lying in a hospital bed, and in walks the two biggest heroes in Columbus, Ohio. The joy that must have brought these kids. One day, when they were leaving the hospital, they ran into a reporter from the Columbus Dispatch. They got into a conversation, and the reporter asked Woody what they were doing there. Woody replied with his story that you can never pay it back, but you can always pay forward. When they got to the end of that conversation, Woody looked at this reporter and he said, "Now if you print a word of that, you'll never have access to my practice field again." You see, Woody didn't do this for fame or image. He did it because he really believed in paying forwards. They say that character is what you do when nobody's looking. Woody exemplifies character. There are hundreds of stories like this in this book, and I'm sure there are thousands more that have never been written. Most people see Woody as this tyrant on the turf. I see him as passionate for people. We shouldn't praise Woody for his bad behavior off the field, but I absolutely praise him for all of his wonderful behavior on the field. You see, Woody Hayes was my childhood hero, and I'm proud to say that after looking into the character of the man, once again, Woody Hayes is my hero. You see, it's true. You can't judge a book by its cover.
Thank you, Mark. Now, you've been a long-time Toastmaster. How many years have you been a Toastmaster?
2.5 years.
Is that all? Mm-hmm. Wow, great job.
Thank you.
Now, which clubs are you a member of?
I just joined a fourth one.
Yay!
Switch on Toastmasters was my first, and I'm president of that club.
Great.
I belong to TGIF Management, to Talking Chips, and just recently Next Step.
Which I'm a member of.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Now, what made Woody your hero, even before you read the book?
Well, so growing up, he's always been a hero. You know, when you're a kid, you don't really know how to judge somebody and see what's real or what's not, and winning is what matters. So when you're a kid, absolutely, that's what made Woody my hero. But you know, later on, you see the bad side of someone, and you have to question why you think that. So reading the book just gave me a great justification for liking Woody once again.
Now, if you would have ever been able to meet him in person, what would you have asked him?
Oh. So instead of answering that question, what I'll say is, when I was back at the university, I fell in love with Woody again so much that I read everything that I could get my hands on that had his quotes in it, and I wrote a quote book that says, here are all of Woody's quotes.
Wow.
So I can tell you so much about what he thinks and how he thinks and some of his philosophies. One of my favorites that he said was, someone else may be better, but they'll never outwork us.
Wow, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for sharing your speech.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we're going to hear from Mark's evaluator. His name is Robert Van Horn. He is a member of Switch On, and he's also a pianist and a composer. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Birgit. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Master Evaluator. Toastmaster. Ladies and gentlemen, and TV viewers, let's please applause if you think Mark gave an outstanding speech. Mark, you have what it takes to be a speaker. In fact, your parents named you Mark Stiving, And you can use that M and S, your initials, as a master speaker. You gave us a story. We saw you come out here. You had a prop of a book about Woody. You told us a story. You had a baseball cap that's got us in the mood of being a baseball fan. You connected with us. We felt connected with you because of this story, especially the personal story that you gave to us. You have what it takes to be a speaker, Mark. I heard, and we did hear, pauses in your speeches while you were speaking. We heard different emotions felt, sadness, and we felt that, what you had felt back then. If I may make two suggestions to you, and that would be for when you begin a speech, maybe start with a question. Now, the title of your speech was, "You can't judge a book by its cover." Maybe you could have came out and said, "How many people in here think they can judge a book by its cover?" Or something to that effect. And another thing that you could have done, another suggestion, is that in the very beginning, you have to come out with a lot of energy. How many people judge a book by its cover? And then from there, you can go to the different kinds of energy. Bring it down and then bring it back up again. Mark, you are what your initials stand for, a master speaker. And I look forward to many more speeches from you. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Robert. Toastmasters District 4 covers the San Francisco Bay Area all the way down to Monterey. We have over 200 clubs. Once in a while, we go visit one of these clubs. Today, our feature is Wry Toastmasters, and they're going to tell us a little bit about how their Toastmasters experience helps them in their professional lives. Let's take a look.
Welcome everybody. Wry Toastmasters meeting is in session. Please help me welcome today's Toastmaster, Vasu.
People around me saw the difference. The pre-Toastmasters me and the post-Toastmasters me, and they recognize it, and actually it helped me take on new roles in my day job.
I think the reason it works is, first of all, it's self-paced. I was in that first club for probably 3 or 4 months before I opened my mouth. Second, we're all learning together. Third, it's fun. You learn a lot of interesting things. You meet some wonderful people. You form some lifelong friendships. And finally, with that positive experience, I think we all learn a little bit about ourselves.
Everything in Toastmasters is done through experience. You have to apply it doing something, whether it be giving a speech or managing an event or mentoring a colleague. All of these things you have to do yourself. Table topics was what sold me. I attended a meeting and saw somebody get a question out of the blue that would have totally stumped me. I would have had no idea what to do with it or what to say. And they were able to come up with, not just a response, but an eloquent, concise, well-directed response. Today, Christine came up with a good idea for a table topic session.
And we are the year 2525. We are gathered to share our findings about Earth, a planet once inhabited by humans.
What would somebody looking at it 500 years later make of that object, and how would they describe it to other people? So it was a good opportunity to very quickly come up with interesting stories.
Prototype for an electric shaver.
Slowly, it produces some wavelengths. It's the units.
This could be something that controls the time bomb or the shaver.
In today's world, all the business meetings are conference calls. Everything is on phone, and all you hear is the voice, not the body language. So when people start using these filler words in conference calls, it's very distracting and they lose the audience. You can't keep the conversation engaging if you're using the filler words. And that's one skill I developed using Toastmasters and being an archonteur. because I started myself reducing the filler words in my usual conference calls, and that really keeps everyone engaged in the conference.
There's always something to learn, to continue to learn. I think if you think you've got it all, that's a sure sign of self-importance, and that's something you don't ever want to be at, don't want to go there. Keep on learning, keep on experiencing. There's always something new to learn, always some new people to meet. I think life is like that.
We're going to look forward with great interest to your next talk.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed hearing more about Wry Toastmasters. They meet at Hewlett-Packard in Cupertino. Now it's time to hear from our second speaker, David Kohls, and his speech is Travel with Me, David Kohls.
Pain is a useful thing. Pain will tell you when to remove your hand from a hot stove. A different kind of pain will tell you when to grieve. Very severe pain that occurred a long time ago is a great topic for entertaining other people and making jokes. Fellow Toastmasters and viewers, that's what I'm going to do today. I want to take you on a journey that involved quite a bit of pain for me personally long enough ago so that hopefully you'll find it entertaining, illuminating, and somewhat amusing. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in West Africa. I was working there, and in my spare time, I wanted to do the thing that all Americans do. Tourism, travel, explore Africa, conquer the continent. I looked at the map. I said, I'm in this small village. In my spare time, I need to travel and visit these other villages and towns across the map so that I know Africa. Just like in the United States, many kids come to know Yosemite, Disneyland, various other points of interest across our great land. I learned how to do that the African way. Come with me as we travel. A journey is often accompanying the speaker with steps. In this case, I'm going to ask you to sit with me for a few kilometers. Let's set the stage. First of all, how do you travel around Africa? Well, if you're a Peace Corps volunteer, you don't have money, and most towns don't have airports, so you have to go by road. The roads in Africa are not paved, so this becomes a bit of a challenge. Well, it turns out that they have a lot of travel in Africa, and it's highly facilitated. Every single town has a thing they call a gare, kind of a bus stop, except they don't have any buses. Don't envisage Greyhound just yet. There's no travel with me. Individual entrepreneurs buy French station wagons. They're called 303 and 404, 303 and 304. Those were the models. And they send them to these stops, and the French station wagons negotiate with the people as to where they want to go. And the way to travel is to go with a group of people. If a bunch of people are going from Bouaké to Daloa, that means within an hour they'll load up a car and it'll travel in that direction. If you want to go somewhere that's unpopular, you might actually end up waiting days. So that's not a good strategy. You arrive at the gare and you find a place you want to go, or you develop a strategy to get there. Now comes the important thing of negotiating the price of your trip. If you're a person from any country that's wealthier than the African country you're in, you're what's called a tubabu. Tubabu is a simple word for person who should be charged 2 to 3 times the normal price. So the key as a Peace Corps volunteer is not to be a tubabu. You have to know the local prices, and you have to know how to negotiate. A useful phrase is warite de, which means I'm broke. I use that one a lot. Unfortunately, it was almost true. I would just have enough money to get there, have some fun, and get back. You've negotiated your price. Now there's another thing about travel strategy, and that is you have to know where to sit in this car. In these cars, they have, unlike an American station wagon, 3, not 2, rows of seats. More unlike an American station wagon experience, they put 4 people across in each row. In the 3rd row, they have 2 wheel wells on either side, so that it's significantly less space for just as many people. Strategy number 1, avoid the 3rd row. The worst thing about it is not just how constricted it is, it's the fact that the third row has sealed windows that can't open. Don't forget, Ivory Coast, where I was, is 4 degrees above the equator, which means it's going to be humid and it's going to be over 90 degrees every day. In a sweltering tin can, otherwise known as an automobile, with no windows open, you can really suffer. The key is avoid the third row. Second piece of strategy, try to get one of the window seats, because in the window seats, your chance of breathing is better, at least in the first part of the trip, and I'll explain that in a moment. So, you've identified where you want to go, you strategically position so that you can get a window seat, you've paid your fare, now it's time to get on our journey. We get in our seat, 3 other people are sitting there. This is the lottery time. You have no control over this, because you don't know who else is going to buy those other seats. If you win the lottery, you'll get an anorexic grandmother and 2 urchins. Lots of room. Winning the lottery in Africa is about the same, has about the same odds as winning the Mega Millions here. More likely, you're going to have some people who are really good at eating. That's why they can afford tickets, because they're healthy. You squeeze in, you slam the door next to you, and you settle into your seat. The journey is about to begin. And now comes the 3 hazards of the road. Hazard number 1. If you're squeezed up against somebody, you're going to unfortunately be memorizing parts of their anatomy that Americans who believe in personal space were never meant to know except in a very few people during their entire lives. It's impolite to know that too well, so you don't want to be squirming around. Also, if you hit people with your elbow, guess what? They have more practice. They'll hit back better than you can hit. You will lose. Don't do it. It's bad etiquette. So what you have to do then is sit very still. These journeys can take many hours because you creep along at what by American standards is a very slow pace. So you have to sit still for many hours. And what will happen? You'll inevitably develop cramps, a lot of pain. So you have to be like the Karate Kid and kind of go into the zone and zone out and just think about something. Like Woody Hayes winning another championship. That's how you can survive many hours of doing this. Hazard number 1, the cramps. Hazard number 2, the dust. You see those exciting plumes of smoke behind vehicles in movies? It's exciting in movies. To me, it's a scene of pain. You have to cover your mouth with a cloth just to survive. Hazard number 3, are you ready to rumble? I think they invented it there. Escalier are even bumps along the road that occur because of repeated road traffic on those same roads. It's a phenomenon that shakes your teeth and shakes your bones and makes you give speeches like this many years later. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Sure. So how long have you been a Toastmaster?
4 years.
4 years. And what club are you a member of?
Lee Emerson Bassett in Palo Alto.
Oh, great. That's a large one.
Yes, it is.
How long were you in the Peace Corps?
I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years. I was in country for 4 years because a project I started just kept going and going like the Energizer Bunny.
And how many of those trips did you take?
Quite a few. I learned those techniques over time.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate
My
having
pleasure.
you on today.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from David's evaluator. He's a member of my home club of SAP Toastmasters and also our past president. Welcome, Nick Rose.
Thank you, Birgit, Madam Toastmaster. And thank you very much, David, for your speech on traveling with you. I've never been to Africa, so I was very excited to hear your speech when you started that out. And you had a great initial line. Pain is a wonderful thing, which kind of threw me off, because why would anyone want pain? But okay, I'll keep an open mind and listen to your speech here. And then you begin to talk about 2 different types of pain, right? That there's pain that tells you to take your hand off a stove, and then there's pain that tells you to grieve. And you went in to say how this pain works into your story and your travels in the Peace Corps. And then I loved how you explained that the speech was going to be about your travels. And the thing that was great about it is you started with a really great humorous tone, and so you're going into a point of self-deprecating humor, which is known as to be one of the best types of humor that you can use. Instead of making fun of somebody else, you can use yourself and the experiences that you've had, whether bad or good, to make other people laugh. So I was very excited to see this. another thing that I really loved about your speech was the great African terms that you had. I think it was wati tade, I'm broke. I've never heard anything like this, but it's a great term that I love to use when I go back to my friends and family. And you really talked about, you used these and showed how you can use this to travel around, and keys and points that we can use to travel ourselves are there. Some things that I think you could work on. One thing is that you have great gestures, and you can use those to emphasize your points, but you started to kind of point back and forth a lot, almost to the point where it was distracting and I was missing what you were trying to say. So I think I would say to bring those gestures down a little bit and use a little more time to keep your hands down to your side maybe and talk, and then use them to focus on a specific point. Another thing was, with a story like this, you had great humor, but I think you could have even lifted it up even more. One example being at the very end there with your closing, you talked about the bumpy roads and how it shakes your teeth and rattles your teeth. And I think you could have really emphasized that even more. When we were talking about the initial part of when you wanted to see the country, and you said, I wanted to do what anyone else would do from the US. I wanted to be a tourist. I wanted to travel and explore and really use those and emphasize it, that you want to go around and be a big, strong, traveling person. But overall, I think you had a great speech. It was an excellent topic, and it really facilitated the point of your pains and your travels for our humor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. So we saw some fantastic speakers. We saw some great evaluations. If you are interested in joining Toastmasters, we have a training program for you. So going back to that sports analogy, we have manuals that give you projects. So just as a personal trainer would give you some goals to reach, in this case, the Toastmasters manuals are what gives you the goals and the different skills that you need to work on. So you can go out and tell all your friends that Toastmasters is just like training for a marathon. Hopefully you'll join us here and find a club in District 4. You can find us at www.d4tm.org. Find a club near you and enjoy the Toastmasters experience. Thank you for joining us.